Yesterday's mass attack of pro-Israel marchers in Boulder, Colorado, in which 8 people were severely burned, including an 88-year-old woman who is a Holocaust survivor, brings to the fore the need to do a better job of preventing radicalization and radicalized violence in the United States in 2 ways. Better screening of foreign nationals who are coming into the country on visa applications, and doing more to prevent homegrown radicalization, which I'll get to in a little bit. But let's first talk about the foreign screenings. The individual reportedly behind the attack in Boulder is a 45-year-old man from Egypt who was admitted under a visa that had expired. And that raises this issue of need for screening. And first I want to comment about Boulder. The Pearl Street Mall, which is where this happened, is a beautiful old outdoor mall. It's basically a boulevard, but it's closed to vehicular traffic. It's got a big sidewalk between the two sides of the mall, and it's all outdoor shops and restaurants. I was last there 2 years ago with my wife. We were visiting Denver, where I'm from, to see my mother. And we went up to Boulder, which is where I graduated from the University of Colorado in 1979. And Pearl Street Mall goes way back, before I was a student at CU. And it was a great place to go. I don't remember the name of the restaurant now, but there was this real cool little restaurant and bar when I went to school there. And we used to go there, and they had these great thin sliced and fried potatoes, like potato chips, but better than that. And we used to go there and have a beer and eat those. It was a great place. So I have very fond memories, and I enjoyed going back there with my wife and visiting. It's only 2 miles from the University of Colorado campus. And Boulder is a highly educated, actually very affluent area. It's not a place where I at least would have anticipated something of this nature happening, but it just shows that nobody's immune and nowhere is immune. And given that this man was here from Egypt, and his obvious antipathy towards Israel and Jews, because he was heard yelling a Palestinian slogan, it really does call out the need for better screening. And when our politicians talk about reform, they typically talk about the people who are already here, namely people who've crossed from Mexico. But what I'm talking about is different. And it's not that other people haven't talked about it, they have. But we need to do a better job of screening. I've seen discussion about, well, you have to answer all these questions on your application, and you have to agree to follow the law. Partly true, partly not. We as kids in this country, at least when I was a kid, we grew up and we had to say the Pledge of Allegiance before class every morning. And when you apply for citizenship and get citizenship, you take the Pledge of Allegiance. But that's not so for a visa application. There is no Pledge of Allegiance. There's no pledge to uphold the Constitution of the United States. But it is true that the standard application, what's called a DS-160, includes things on there about generally complying with the law, abiding by the law. And there is a whole bunch of information about your background, your personal background, where you're from, your relatives, children, of course, your educational background, professional background, and your reasons for coming to the United States. And there are even questions about your intent and establishing that you do not have an intent to commit certain crimes such as human trafficking, and in particular, that you're not coming for the purpose of committing terrorism. But if you are inclined to engage in acts of terrorism, you're certainly not going to be discouraged by an application, and you're just going to lie. That's the reality. So what I'm suggesting is that we look at reform from the standpoint of doing a better job of screening so that we can keep radicals out of the United States to begin with. And to underscore this problem that we have with mass violence and how it's escalating and how we're becoming immune to it, I want to mention a case, a California case, 1987 case called Lopez versus McDonald's. It arose from a mass shooting at a McDonald's restaurant in San Isidro, a little city by the Mexican border. It happened in 1984. And survivors and relatives of the survivors sued McDonald's for failing to provide adequate security. The Court of Appeal concluded that McDonald's could not be held responsible because this was a, quote, once-in-a-lifetime massacre. In reaching that conclusion, the Court of Appeal noted over the past, I don't recall how many years, but it was some time, a history in the entire United States of only 8 mass shootings. Well, contrast that to today, where mass shootings are downright commonplace. Just look at the school shootings we've had in public schools and universities over the last 20, 30 years. It has just become absolutely epidemic. And so we don't need to continue to fuel that by allowing radicalized individuals into the country and promoting radicalization. And certainly the United States does not promote radicalization, but if you condone something, if you fail to act in a way to prevent it, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And we have escalating radicalization among white supremacists and anti-government groups. And on the other side, pro-Palestinian radicals and far-left radicals. And those radicals on the left are being incubated in our schools, particularly in our universities. If we don't recognize that, if we don't start to address that, we are going to have a problem. And all you have to do is go onto social media and watch these protests, which is really not an adequate description, but these events with these pro-Palestinian supporters where they are threatening and intimidating Jews and Israelis and anybody who disagrees with them. And we need to do something about that. And we need to understand why, and we need to understand where those people are coming from, because if we don't, this situation is only going to get worse and worse.